and I'll do a little history check. When I started out in this business with a guy named McAfee, it was a very positive, upbeat, somebody I respected very much. I thought, I better check and see what Tom Latham's done. As I went back and looked at McGuire and John Norris and Ford, you know, it's all been negative. And now in this campaign that we're in, maybe, close to $3 million been paid negative against me, and so I'm not going to take this laying down. It's just not my nature. I'm not going to do that, and you should know that. And so you've been negative throughout your career and what you've done, and so here's a situation where it's so disingenuous to use something and then preach against it, and for Iowans to think, you think that Iowans don't realize where your major investment is, that I don't know where he is, or where Kevin doesn't know where his is, or Kathy, or anybody else. Of course you do.
Of course I know where it is, but I don't have any influence. And the fact of the matter is, I mean,
not true. Not true.
On what basis do you
Because
say that?
Do you meet with your brothers? Do you sit together?
Congressman Latham answer.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Congressman Boswell voted for this. Everyone that has independently looked at it say that he loses all credibility in this race by continuing to run this ad, because I like his mode of operation, and I have been running positive ads all year long about what I believe about the future. And you notice he didn't answer the question about when is the last time he ran a positive ad, because he can't remember. And it goes way back. How many cycles? And I think that's very unfortunate, because this should be a discussion in this election, two incumbents with voting records to compare where they stand on issues. But instead, what he talks about are personal attacks on me.
Gentlemen, let's, if we can, perhaps move along to some of those issues. When we solicited viewer questions, reader questions, at least as far as KCCI's questions were concerned, the overwhelming number dealt with term limits, believe it or not. Congressman Boswell, you have had 8 terms, and Congressman Latham 9 terms, and we have received questions about how you feel on term limits from Ron Gibb, from Ron Edwards, from Pamela Davenport, and, well, I've got about 4 or 5 more people here. So let me ask you, and if we can perhaps even expand this a little bit beyond that, you talked about the election ads. Let's talk about campaign reform and whatnot. But let's first of all address term limits for congressmen. Should members of Congress have term limits like the president does? Congressman Latham.
Well, if we could get it passed, we tried this back in 1995, and we had several votes. And what happened? The different states came up with their own versions of term limits, and then they had on the ballot saying if you didn't vote exactly for whatever that state's term limit was, you got the scarlet letter by the ballot. It's going to be very, very difficult. For a state like Iowa, while we want to turn over people, it also is very difficult. We only have 4 representatives in the House today. And when you look at what Florida, California, New York, if they could get together and basically put all the chairmen in, all the ranking members from the big states, and we would have no way of having a chairman of an appropriations subcommittee from Iowa if, in fact, term limits were in place. Well, the way it's set up today, I think, yeah.
Congressman Boswell?
Well, that is not a bad idea, and but we do have a term limit. Every 2 years we have an election, so it never goes away, and people get to decide. But it seems to me like that, we agree on something here. We're a small state, and I would agree with you, Tom. The large states would run everything if that were the case. So we need to think this very, very carefully if we was going to do something like that. And I actually had drafted up a bill one time to go to a 4-year term. And so what would be the objection to it? Well, the objection probably the senators. Right now, if Tom or I would decide to challenge one of the senators, it's up or out. Okay. And,
so your answer is yes?
No, well, my answer is this. So I went out and talked to people about it. I said, if we went to a 4-year, And if a person did challenge one of the senators at the middle of it, they would also, except for writing a constitutional amendment, you know, they still go out and they'd have to have a special election. So it wouldn't change that feature.
We're getting fairly short
I didn't
on-
have any co-sponsors because I was afraid it would be self-serving, so we didn't do that. And
We're getting fairly short on time, so I'm going to ask you to, even though we don't have a clock running, to voluntarily shorten your answers a little bit. And I'd like to turn the attention now to agriculture. The federal government currently subsidizes crop insurance when yields are down, but it doesn't offer that kind of insurance to other industries. And Paul Mueller of Newton is a reader who asked, you know, shouldn't farmers